This is episode 37, and welcome to the Collective Alchemy podcast show. My name is Arabelle Yee, and I'm your host here. If you're new here, this podcast is all about breaking down the complex world into bite-sized pieces so you can step up in your life, business, and develop your spiritual and personal growth. If you've been listening to this podcast, you already know that I bring amazing people onto this show from different aspects of life and business so they can share their life stories, experiences, and words of wisdom to inspire and empower us, and that we're not the only ones, but there are others out there. And also, that if others can do it in life and business, so can you too. Today's topic is very near and dear to my heart because today we're talking about leadership, which is what I teach on a daily basis to my clients as well as internationally, speaking on different stages as a women's leadership coach and speaker. Here's the thing. Today we're going to be talking about leadership from a completely different yet refreshing perspective. As you know, I've said many times that leadership to me isn't just about securing senior positions in companies. It's really about an inside-out approach where we can do an inner and transformative work on ourselves as an ongoing practice so we can get connected to who we truly are and bring out what we find within as leaders. This is how we differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. This is how we make an impact in the world. And this is how we grow as powerful leaders in every aspect of our lives. We're now at an important time to recognize that the way things are going in the world isn't working. This is the time women are being called to step up in the world. This isn't about a feminist movement. This is about recognizing the feminine aspect that we, as both men and women, have within us. This is about tapping into our emotional intelligence and not just about getting the task done. This is about bringing people along on our journey as a collective and no longer about being individualistic. This is about creating that balance again in the world. Because in order for us to become a conscious leader, we need to be a conscious person. And to be a conscious person, we need to do the inner work. So let's get started, and I promise it will be a very heart opening 30 minutes for you. Hey Nilima, thank you so much for being on this Collective Alchemy podcast today.
Thank you, Arabelle. Delighted to be speaking with you.
Yes, same here. I've been wanting to talk to you for some time now. So as usual, let's just dive straight into this. And my first question is, the moment I saw, as I was looking for leadership books, I saw this book called Shakti Leadership, Embracing the Feminine and Masculine Power in Business, and that name just caught my eye. And we will talk about the title, how you came up with the title and everything. But first, I know you are the co-author of this book. So what made you write this book?
I have been in leadership consulting and coaching for a while. I have also been a spiritual practitioner, a yoga practitioner for several years now, over 16 years now. And I realized these two intersect very deeply, that to be a conscious leader, you have to be a conscious person and you have to have done deep inner work. Also, I realized much of the self-awareness material on leadership that's out there today is missing the feminine piece. It's missing the piece on energy and power, even as it's talking about become more self-aware, become more conscious as a leader. That isn't enough to get real outcomes, because leadership is about getting outcomes at the end of it, right? You got to lead something into its desired outcome. That requires a certain potency and agency, a power you need to fuel and make things happen to bring about change. And that is not going to happen just with self-awareness. That it needs power, and that power in the yogic tradition is called Shakti. That when you become more self-aware, more contemplative, and coming from a deeper place of presence, you are then able to tap into this power of presence, which is Shakti, which you then have to operate from. So to get anything done, we need to operate from some kind of a power base. We need to exercise some power. Normally, we exercise the power of our privilege. Right? Oh, I'm CEO, and therefore you will listen to me and do this job.
Yeah.
You know, or I'm a man in the house and you're the woman and you will listen to me depending on which culture you come from.
Yes.
Or in the business world, I'm the client, you are the vendor, you will listen to me because I am paying you, right? So it's all about power based on the privileged position one is in. And I realized that's the cause of a whole lot of distortion and imbalance. And we all need to get to a much deeper power base, which is the power base called Shakti, which comes from a deeper place, which is really infinite and there's plenty for everyone. And we simply need to know how to put ourselves in accord with it and do power with dynamics rather than power over dynamics. So that's where I had this deep sense that the world needs to understand Shakti, and Shakti power needs to enter the narrative on leadership.
Beautiful. And you know, Nilima, I think a lot of us are waking up to and being more and more aware and open to this, the holistic side of looking at things and the holistic side of leadership. That's how I see it. Now, back to the title of the book, which is Shakti Leadership, Embracing Feminine and Masculine Power in Business. When you were coming up with this title of the book, did you have any resistance as to, would people resonate to it? Would people know what this means? Did you have any of that, and how did you come up with that?
It's a lovely story. Our publisher Barrett Kohler is in San Francisco, and I must admire them for really looking for cutting edge ideas, things that have not been said before. And Neil Maillet, who's the editor there, he's the one who encouraged us to pull out Shakti, which was, originally kind of little under the radar in the book. I know that anything that talks about language such as masculine, feminine, or East-West language, anything that comes from non-West, will traditionally have a resistance in the Western world. And this book is mainly meant for the US audience. America is still the largest consumer of books. And of course, I want to write the book for the whole world, but I have to be cognizant of readers in the US. And the language around masculine and feminine is so fraught with baggage. It just puts people's backs up. They just, all the excessive feminine, rant just puts men off. And therefore, we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We don't even want to use words like masculine and feminine. But in the process, we're losing a very important piece, the baby, right? Well, there's something critically important in these words that we need to include instead of deny and give another name. Because in my tradition, the East, as you know, there is Shiva and Shakti in the Indian tradition, and there is Yin and Yang in the Chinese tradition, which is the core understanding of the duality, that anything contains the two, that there is a masculine aspect, the active aspect, and there's the feminine aspect, the receptive aspect, for any single thing to have its existence. And therefore, to only operate from one aspect of it, one pole, to deny the other pole is going to create dysfunction. And so I realized we need to reclaim the word feminine and masculine and not be shy about it, and actually heal the wound around it. That is one. The other was Shakti is something that has so much power in it as a word, because in the yogic tradition over millennia, it contains its own power. The meaning that has been put into those words are contained in those words, and the power is in those words, right? So Shakti goes with it. So I knew I wanted it, but I was concerned, and maybe the West won't be ready. And they were saying, can I go through their door in order to words? Can I use language that works for the Western reader? To my editor's great credit, he said no, because then it'll sound like just another book that's out there, and there's plenty of books out there. Let's call it what it is, and let's take it forward. And the West has deeply embraced yoga, karma, many amazing, the Tao, yin and yang, many of these things have been embraced and informed the development of psychology and philosophy and everyday living around the world. And Shakti is a new idea that now at least for some parts of the world, that now needs to be introduced to take things to the next level, to really heal the planet, heal humanity.
Exactly.
So that's how that, even though we had various people when we tested the title, kind of an equal number came back and said, no, great idea, great work, but don't call it Shakti leadership. All right. And then there were others who said, you know what, go for it, claim it. It's the elephant in the room. The feminine and all things Eastern and feminine have been subordinate to all things West and masculine. So, this is one way of resetting the balance, restoring the balance, and claiming what's true and beautiful about your wisdom and your tradition and where you're coming from.
Exactly. Exactly. And I see that as also, stepping into your power as well and stepping up by calling this book Shakti Leadership. And it has definitely caught my eye the moment I saw it online, and I had to just get the book. And I have to say that the book has taught me so much. I'm still learning from it. It's not just, I can't just read it once and that's it. I'm reading over and over, and on my third time reading it, and I'm still learning a lot.
It's interesting you say that. It makes perfect sense to me, because this is a book that I call compressed complexity. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very tiny, potent pill. Mm-hmm. And it'll fire and unfold in phases in the reader's psyche. So I encourage people to come back to it again and again, because the ideas may seem very simple the first time you read them, but they are like seeds that are planted in the soil of your consciousness, your body, your mind, your emotions, and they will start sprouting there, ever so sometimes gently and sometimes rather like an earthquake. They may burst forth as well, because they will start shaking some deep-seated beliefs that are perhaps not serving you anymore. And the transformation has kind of been built into the intent and the content of the book. It will do its work in the reader. I have to take some responsibility for that, and it is transformative, and transformation can be disruptive.
No, it is. And then I find that it will definitely challenge a lot of belief systems and paradigms out there that are existing in a lot of people's minds. And it definitely has to me, even though this is the path that I've been walking and learning and practicing, which is the point, right? This is to open up a whole new paradigm, so that, like you said, we can do things differently this time, and we can heal the planet, even just, one after another. And some things in the book are so simple, but to me, it's all about the simple things, the things that what seems so small that makes major shifts in the world. So one thing that I want
just to close on that piece, I'm reminded of the story of the princess and the pea. Mm-hmm. That there is that little pea underneath the 20 mattresses, and that makes her black and blue. I don't know if you've read that story. It's a very famous childhood story.
No, go on.
Okay, so there was this prince who was looking for a princess to marry, and all the princesses came, but they were fake. They weren't the real ones that he was looking for. And then one day this woman comes looking completely bedraggled at his gate because it's rained and she's wet, and she says, "I'm a princess." He said, "How do I know?" He said, "Well, you've got to spend one night in this room we give you, and then we will know." So she spends the night on this bed of 20 mattresses, one on top of the other. And next morning he asks her, "How did you sleep?" And she says, "Very badly. Mm-hmm. I was black and blue." So that's when he realizes she is a real princess. And the story goes that he had put a a little pea underneath at the bottom of it. And because she's the real deal, she could sense that imperfection, or that that loss of true comfort. So okay, that's a funny story, of course, but the way I explain it in this context is we think we may have all these 20 mattresses of overlaid privilege and comfort for ourselves, but there is a pea at the bottom of it which things are not quite right there. And unless we get to that bottom of that last mattress, and find that pea and really unpack it and deal with it, we're not going to really resolve and come into true comfort with our lives.
I love it. And coming from my paradigm and how I work with people is that a lot of leadership styles or leadership books or even just self-help, self-development, most of it are dealing on the surface layer. But unless we actually unpack and go to the root of things and really work inside out, how can we even lead others if we don't even know who we truly are inside?
Yes, and Arabelle, that's hard work. And that's why the world still needs to go on. You need to function every day. You can't say, oh, let me go to my cave for 20 years and then come back and then I'll lead. No, we are in the daily business of leading on a moment-to-moment basis. And we will learn as we go along. So we also have to be kind to ourselves, that as long as we're aware that to find real lasting solutions, we are going to have to do the inside work as much as we are doing the outside work. We can't go away and just do the inside. At the same time, to just do what we've always done on the outside will also be, giving us diminishing returns. So again, in the book, I have said it's actually eventually mastering both worlds, the inner world and the outer world. And in a funny way, the outer world on a daily basis gives you the experiences and the opportunities to learn and practice this inner leadership.
Yes. Yes, I love that. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier was about the imbalance in the world that's happening right now, even let's just say between the masculine and the feminine. At the same time, I am seeing a lot of women stepping up in the world as leaders. And so my question is that why do you think it's important for women to step up? And also, why do you think it's important for us to recognize the masculine and the feminine aspect within us to become great leaders?
Great question, Arabelle. So, at a minimum, life is moving towards becoming more fair and equitable. We need to create a world that works for all. So, just like the 19th century required calling to an end slavery as something that was not okay for humanity. And the 20th century was calling an end to colonization as something that is not okay for humanity. Similarly, the time has now come to call an end to the patriarchy, which is not okay for all of humanity, which is not okay for one half of the world's population, where just by being male, by gender, privileges you and gives you a dominant position versus females who are then considered subordinate. And this has been socialized into every system of ours, from the way weddings are conducted to the way salaries are given out in workplaces. So many ways. The patriarchy has filtered, permeated every aspect of human life, and that is no longer okay, purely from a equality point of view, that women are human beings and we need the same rights, opportunities and status as men anywhere in the world. That's just a human moral thing to be set right. Okay. So women are and the power is, power is never going to be given to us. We are going to have to earn it, step up and claim it and assert that we are equal and show up as equals, right? So that's why that answers your first question, I hope, that women need to step up at this time. But it's not only about equal opportunities, right? As patriarchy, we denied not just women their equality, we also denied feminine energy, feminine values, feminine capacities, their equality and equal side all things masculine. So, for example, when we say be strong, we are not valuing that is the feminine capacity of being soft and vulnerable, right? When we say go ahead and be a very logical thinker because reason is better than anything else, we are not valuing emotional intelligence, the ability to feel feelings, which are all feminine capacities. right? When we say focus on getting the task done, because the task is what's important, we are focusing on the masculine aspect of getting something done, and we are denying the ability to relate and collaborate and trust and take the people along in who are doing the tasks for us. Mm-hmm. That is the feminine side, right? Mm-hmm. So right there we have, in the patriarchy, we have also privileged masculine capacities in both men and women, and we have denied and undervalued and left unrewarded feminine qualities in both men and women. And as a result, our growth as leaders, as humans, has been imbalanced. We have all grown that which has been rewarded, which is the masculine side. So in the book we talk about, like, it's a bird of humanity has been flying on one wing, the masculine wing. And so it's now flying around in circles.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to really soar, we need to extend the other wing. This is what Lynn Twist shares in the book. She says we've got to now extend the other wing, the wing of the feminine qualities, right? So that the bird of humanity can soar and not fly around in circles, go forward.
I love that. I love that we're flying around in circles and we're flying with only one wings. And I also love the fact that, Shakti leadership is not just about women. It's about the feminine aspect in both men and women. It's also the aspect of energy or leadership quality that men are also missing and they can tap into because they have it within them.
Yes, there's a double layer to what you just said that I want to clarify. So at one level, the imbalance to be corrected is that both men and women need to access their masculine and feminine qualities, energies, capacities. Okay, yeah. When they both are able to do that, they will unlock Shakti. They will release a deeper power which comes from a presence beyond their personality or ego self. Right? Mm-hmm. And that power that is released is Shakti, which is like a cosmic force, which is considered feminine because its masculine aspect is Shiva, which is consciousness or presence. So Shakti is at that higher chunk of the polarity of consciousness and its energy. That is the Shiva and the Shakti. Shakti itself will have masculine energy in it and feminine energy in it at a level of our capacities and traits and qualities.
Yes, perfect. Now, taking it from one step further from that, in the book, one thing that I really love is what you said about stepping in, stepping up, and stepping out. Can you talk a little bit more about that? What does it mean to be stepping in, stepping up, and stepping out? And what are obviously, I wanted to cover the whole book in the podcast, but we can't. So what are the three aspects that you can share on this podcast today for us to be able to step in, step up, and step out?
I think another nice way that I've heard that same thing said is by another spiritual teacher, Mark Gaffney. And he says, you have to wake up, grow up, and show up. So step in is to wake up. That step in is when you have to go within and access your true Shakti. And for that, you need to cultivate presence. And your presence, you've got to go beyond your ego self. And for this, I have a practice I have offered for free on my website. How to cultivate presence would be one way on how to step in. So if you just go to shaktileadershipbook.com and you look for the presence practice.
I will add that link to the blog post of this podcast so that people can go and check it out.
Wonderful. So that's a tool on how to step in. Then the next is that you have to step up. Stepping up is basically becoming an adult. You have to grow up. You have to go past your child self that is still looking to be met by people outside and whose needs are met from the outside. Step up is to really become your own mother, your own lover, your own parent, your own beloved, right? And that holy family reunion of psychological wholeness I talk about in the book, becoming the wise fool of tough love. That is how you're really gaining self-mastery. The wisdom comes when you become your inner parent. The foolishness and ability to wonder and play comes from your inner child self. And tough is when you know how to be the masculine, mature masculine, and call your boundaries and be assertive when needed and not accept the unacceptable. And love is the ability to harmonize and include and be compassionate, deeply compassionate as a leader. So stepping up is about raising your leadership game and becoming this wise fool of tough love. And in the book, we show many different tools and techniques on how to access your mature masculine qualities and your mature feminine qualities and how to do that work. And then finally, the step out is once you have accessed your Shakti and then you have embodied your Shakti. Embodied Shakti is becoming that whole self and coming from your full power. Finally, the step out is now you manifest from your Shakti. You are here to not just be whole, you're here to also be on purpose and move towards your potential and creating and bringing healing in the world and, bringing your gifts to the world. So that is also called how do you become more congruent. Your inner self is congruent with the work you are doing with the world outside. And that piece is embodying Shakti, or what we're saying, show up in the world with your true power, and the work that you're doing is your swadharma. It is the deep purpose that you are here to bring to the world, and you are on purpose and you're flowing with it. So there are again tools and techniques in the book on how do you find your purpose. How do you find, and it's very simple. You have to become who you essentially are in the work you do. So your swabhav is your innate nature. That is what has to flow into your dharma, your swadharma, the purpose that you're here to bring to the world. So are you here to show the world a higher ground? Or are you here to bring healing? Or are you here to bring forth creative new expressions? Each one of us has different unique gifts. And that is how we have to step out. We have to step out with those unique gifts in whatever we are doing.
And what I really love about Shakti leadership is the book emphasizes very, very deeply on really finding out who we are, what our purpose is, what are we here to do, and also finding that fragmented parts of ourselves and becoming whole again. It's very in-depth. It takes a lot of work to go through the book, and I'm still going through that. However, it's very powerful. The key here is if you don't know how to lead yourself, how can you even lead others?
Absolutely. This is an inside-out model of leadership. Be the change, be the change, be the change, be the change.
Be the change you want to see in the world. Now, Nilima, thank you so much for sharing that. And everybody who's listening to this podcast, you must absolutely get this book. So it's called Shakti Leadership, and I'll also include a link to that book. Now, I want to move on to the next question, which is something that I've been wanting to ask. So, Nilima, why are you here? What's your vision?
My vision is to really gather and develop a global network of Shakti leaders, women who are coming from this place of empowerment and creating from there, women who have stepped in, stepped up, and are ready to step out, and to create peace through enterprise, either as intrapreneurs or entrepreneurs. So I realized that women hold a very key piece. I woke up this morning to the destruction in Nice. There is so much, pain in Kashmir as we speak. We've just come out of the holy month of Ramadan, and there were attacks in Istanbul and Baghdad and Medina, and you wake up every day, you read the papers, and clearly this world looks like it's breaking down, and no one seems to have the answers. And when I go deeply and I study it, I realize, what can I do? I realize that the world needs a foundation of peace if we are going to evolve. And the conflict is essentially about scarcity consciousness, poverty consciousness, that somehow there isn't enough. So we first need to meet our survival needs, and for that we need to have a very mutual commerce across the world. in a way, a commerce that is win-win. All the stakeholders are winning in that commerce. And at a minimum, we need to feed our bellies and our bodies. And only then can we move forward on all that still awaits us, as a species. So at a very basic level, we need our bellies and our bodies to be, our survival needs to be met. And I know women have the capacity to create enterprise, businesses, in a way that works for all and not in the win-lose way that business has unfortunately become. Capitalism has got a bad name. So I'm part of this movement called Conscious Capitalism, which my co-author has founded, Raj Sisodia. And that's why I partnered him in this book, that we need to create a world that works for all through business that can really become a force for good and can elevate humanity if we have a higher purpose, we have conscious leaders, we have conscious cultures built on love and care, and we have stakeholders integrated in such a way that everyone wins in that value chain. And I know women at this time have not really stepped up into the world of business with the way they can do business. And I know women and feminine capacities will be able to create the conscious businesses that are possible, and that will then create peace in the world. For which I have a 9-month training program where women will step in the first trimester, step up in the second trimester, and step out in the third trimester and literally birth themselves as Shakti leaders.
Perfect. I will also include that training details in the blog post. And so my last question, probably second last. So the question is, Nilima, you are the author. You're a speaker, you're a facilitator, you're a coach, and you work with a lot of big corporate clients. You're also a yoga teacher, and you're also a trained dancer and a choreographer. How do you do all of this?
This is where I think I owe my mother and my father all of that, and my husband after that. People around us are our teachers. They inspire us, they challenge us until we kind of come into all we can be. And I think this work ethic I got from my dad, and the need to do something good in the world, for the world, I get from him. From my mother, I get all this creative energy. I've been a dancer all my life. I've been on stage all my life. And I so enjoy bringing this very Shakti, feminine energy. That's what the goddess is, right? She is creative. She creates beauty, music, art, dance, anything to do with the body is where you gain Shakti and bring forth Shakti. And my mother is all of that for me. And she's kind of made sure I was really creating from a very early age. And as I grew up, I found there is no other way for me but to straddle these worlds of work and passion. How do I bring all that creativity of my dance, my embodiment into my workplace? And so I just created the work that, for example, I do the dance of the 5 elements when I work with corporates. And I get teaching them Shakti leadership through moving their bodies, right? So it's really to have fun myself, and that's the highest goal in yoga on this path is ananda, which is bliss. That you have to follow your bliss, and so if I have to, pay my bills and sustain myself, I also have to do it in a way that will be blissful for me. I have no choice to answer your question, Arabelle, but to bring all these worlds together for myself.
Nilima, you are the living example for a lot of women and a lot of people actually out there who feel that they are, what would be the word, multi-talented, or they have quite a few different types of passions that they just feel that in order to do or achieve something, they need to sacrifice the other. But it's not true, because who would have thought, for most people, to bring in the 5 elements dance into corporate training? You are incorporating everything that you are passionate about into this work, and you are doing what you love and you're passionate about it, and the best thing is you're having fun.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it's just not worth it, right? At the end of the day, it's not worth it if you haven't had fun, or if you haven't grown in some way, if it has not added value,
Hmm.
it's not worth it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Nilima, before we go, what would be your parting piece of advice for our listeners?
I think in a world where there's so much fear and pain, I really would say sing your song, whatever brings you joy, whatever brings you bliss, dance your dance even more fiercely. Even more fiercely.
I love it. Thank you so much. And now for our listeners, if they want to get in touch with you, I'll include some of the links to how to cultivate presence and also your 9 months training. But if they want to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch with you and where can they find you?
Actually, my website, shaktileadershipbook.com.
Okay.
There's a contact us. You can write to Nilima at shaktileadershipbook.com, or there's also a link called authors at shaktileadershipbook.com. So that will come to me.
Okay, awesome.
And I do check in on that daily. So I do receive messages there.
Okay, I will do that. And Nilima, thank you so much for coming on to this show and sharing your knowledge and wisdom. And I'm sure that all the conscious leaders listening to this podcast as well, please at least go and buy the Shakti Leadership book. It's amazing. It will change your life. And Nilima, thank you so much for doing all the work that you're doing in the world. You are a true gift.
Thank you so much, Arabelle. And you did a brilliant interview to get all that out in such a short time.
All right. Thank you, Nilima. So we're coming to an end, and thank you so much for tuning in. I don't do this podcast for profit, and my only intention for this podcast and the interviews that I do is to spread the message of all these amazing people so that we can all go out and do our part and create the ripple effect in the world. If you like this podcast, please go to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating so that we can reach more people. And also, you can go to www.collective-alchemy.com to listen in on more interviews. Until next episode, go out and shine your light because the world needs the gifts only you have.